Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Living in the Limelight, an Anton Scholl and Friends podcast where we discuss music from the artist and fan perspective. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Living in the Limelight. I'm your host, Anton Scholl, and today with me is my special guest, Slammer Wertz from Skarlett Fever. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing good today.
Good.
How are you doing?
Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this will certainly be a fun little interview because we do go back and forth playing out quite some time together, playing out a lot at different venues, between Sideways, going way back to Hog Wild. Way back in the day. So we'll touch on all of that stuff, but let's talk about just you first, and then we'll start getting into the bands. So okay. One of the things, you're fairly well-known guitarist in Arizona. You've been in some bands in the past, and you've known some people, especially a lot of Facebook. We were going through the time where Facebook was really big, and everybody kind of knew each other. And then when our bands were playing out together, we were crossing paths quite often. But got to ask you, first of all, the name Slammer. You got to tell everybody how you got the name. That's going to be that'll be first off.
Well, the name originated way back in my youth. It was high school and partying and everything, and I did things that people just started calling me that because of the things I did, as like drinking a lot of alcohol and being with the opposite sex quite a bit back then. So just leave it at that.
And it stuck.
Yeah, it stuck. Yeah. It stuck. Yeah.
Right. All right. So now your guitar playing, very flashy. You love to get in there. You love the guitars that you have, also flashy. So I want to kind of talk about the guitar in general. Always a guitar player, right? From kind of like day one. What got you started to say, or what did you see that was an original influence where you said, that's what I'm going to do?
Well, I started playing guitar at age 7, and started taking lessons and stuff at that time because my mom's real influential about wanting her kids to do things, and so she pressed the issue of me practicing, even though a lot of times I didn't want to. And at that time, like my very first song I learned how to play at that time, and I'm 63 years old, so we're going all the way back to 1968 right now. And the first song I learned how to play on the guitar was, folk songs and stuff like Feeling Groovy and things like that. And I wasn't really touching into where it came until I got into junior high school, basically, or should I say 5th or 6th grade, and Black Sabbath came out, and I started listening to Tony Iommi, and I was like, wow, this stuff is insane. And it was actually my sister that came up to me and grabbed my guitar and did the Deep Purple riff, Smoke on the Water. And she didn't play it right by no means, but she's like, look what I learned how to do, and she played this riff to me, and I was like, wow, and I was only, at that time, I'd say like 9, 10 years old or something like that. And I just got really influenced by Ritchie Blackmore and Tony Iommi, and Jimmy Page came around and really influenced me, and Michael Schenker from UFO, and Ricky Emmett from Triumph, and of course Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. I was influenced with him. I saw him for the first time with Quiet Riot at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach way before he was even with Ozzy. And Quiet Riot was pretty popular in Huntington Beach, where I'm from Huntington Beach. and everything. So I've had those.
What was that guitar, by the way? The first guitar, electric or acoustic?
No, my first guitar was an acoustic, and so was my second guitar. The very first one I got, my parents bought it off the Spiegel catalog, and it was one of these little nylon string guitars that you couldn't stay in tune very well. And then my dad said, "Well, if you could play 10 songs, I'll get you a better guitar." So I worked like hell. I played 10 songs, and he bought me a Suzuki guitar, which was signed by Suzuki himself, and there are not too many of those made. Nice guitar. And then from there I went to a Ventura acoustic. And my very first electric guitar was an SG guitar, a Gibson SG that my parents bought me for Christmas. And at that time you could buy those brand new for $399. And it was bought at Beach Music. And then my second guitar was an Ibanez Flying V. That was a 76. I wanted that guitar because I was heavily into Kiss, and Kiss had a Flying V guitar, and I was like, I gotta have a Flying V guitar too, you know.
Yes.
But and then I got into the Gibson Les Pauls. I got a Gibson Custom in 1980. It's at 79 Burgundy, and I got that guitar, and I just like, oh my gosh, I just love Gibson guitars and stuff. I love Les Pauls, and had quite a few Gibson Les Pauls after that. I finally bought a Stratocaster and a USA Strat, and I've been messing with that, and I haven't played it live yet, but I think I'm going to get it to a show this year.
Oh, definitely a different sound. I know a lot of people who do play the Les Paul and love the feel of it, love the sound of it for that heaviness. But they do say that the physical heaviness of the guitar and staying in tune sometimes becomes an issue. They have to work on that. So there's definitely differences.
The G string. Yeah, definitely the G string has a problem. You have to really file down a little bit of the nut, to get your G string to stay in tune. And but they go out of tune quite a bit. I have a Dean that I use, and it never goes out of tune. I'll put it in the case, and sometimes I won't play it for a very long time. I'll take it out of the case, and it's perfectly tuned still. And
what's in your arsenal now? How many guitars do you now have?
I really don't know that at this time right now. I'd have to leave and start counting. So we'll just leave it at that.
What about on stage?
I know Robin said there's no room for him. She said there's no room for any other ones, and she's right. There is really no room. They're piled up and stacked up in cases in a closet where I can't even get my clothes in them But go ahead and say what did you just say?
On stage, what are your go-to on stage? I think I've seen your setups where sometimes I've seen 5 or 6 guitars up there at a time. I've limited now. I get to where I'm only playing 3 guitars on stage and stuff. And of course it's a Gibson Les Paul right now. And I use my Dymaflame Dean for the Eddie Van Halen stuff that I do. Because I put a real genuine Floyd Rose on it, not the one that was on it before. They call it a patent Floyd Rose, but I actually got the genuine Floyd Rose, which it's an incredible difference to have the real thing instead of a patent Floyd Rose. And I use that, and then I've been rotating around. I use the Wild Audio guitar quite often that Zach Wild uses, because I just those Wild Audios, they play just like a Gibson Les Paul custom when they're set up properly. Well, so what do you do as far as modifications? I know a lot of guitar players that'll buy a guitar and they will do immediate modifications for it. Either the bridge, the trim, or they're going to file down frets. They're going to do something in there. What do you do? Something? Is there a standard slammer type of a situation you do on all guitars?
I used to do things on my own, but now when I purchase a guitar, I just give it to David Bronson over at Bronson Guitar Works. He takes care of all my guitars. I rotate them in and out of his shop, and the first thing I have him do is I put hip shot tuning heads on them to make it easier to change strings and stuff. I really like the hip shots better than the Grovers. It just makes it, when you break a string, it makes it so you can just change that string instantly.
Right.
Locking tuners and stuff, and I have to have GoPro bridges and stuff on it, and I use GHS strings, and I start off with 010s. I used to use super slinkies at 009s, but I love 010 gauges and the 42 gauge heavies.
Oh, okay. Now, do you use a whammy bar a lot on stage, or do you not have that at all?
I really don't use a whammy bar too often. I only use it on the Dean guitar when I'm doing Van Halen, and I don't really use it as much as I should use it. But I stick pretty much straight off with the Les Paul.
Mm-hmm. And when you're playing, are you experimenting with any types of tuning, or what type of tuning do you use when you perform?
We use an E flat tuning, half step down. I really don't get into all the tuning and everything with a full step down or drop D and stuff like that. I love the sound of it. I do it a lot at home, but I don't do it live. Okay.
Yeah. And that's good. Yeah. Because it could be really confusing to have all those guitars and have them tuned to a different, all guitars have a different tuning to them. I was talking to a few people about that already, and that would kind of throw me off, I would think.
Yeah. My amplification, I simplified it.
So then what about your, let's talk about the music.
I lost you. I lost your feed, Anton.
Fever.
Okay, there you go. So, I got your sound back, but I lost everything but Ever.
Sometimes, I know sometimes that does happen on here. They kind of tend to go out. So did you hear, we just wanted to talk about the bands, just basically, you've been in quite a few, but basically going from the starting of the Whiskey Dogs, which, obviously moved on to a different band, and then Hog Wild, and then of course into Scarlet Fever, which brings us up to speed. So back when, back in the day, you had Whiskey Dogs. Now, obviously Whiskey Dogs is a different band now. They've gone through a couple of different kind of iterations of the whole band, and they're out now. We did interview Starfields from there. We've also interviewed Dane Zimmerman from there also. And, obviously you guys have been very close for many, many years.
We're a family still and everything. We love each other. We take care of each other. That's for darn sure. Yeah.
So then Whiskey Dogs, that started, I don't even know what year, but tell me like when Whiskey Dogs started and how that came about.
Whiskey Dogs actually started in 2005. Our t-shirts say established in 2006, but that's when the t-shirts were actually made. It was in 2006, but we got established in 2005. It was Star and I. We were talking. We went to the billet bar all the time, and we actually talked about forming a band together for about a year or two before we even did. And so we, basically, how everything happened was I was throwing these parties in my backyard, and they were big parties. 200 or 300 people would come in my backyard, and I had a big stage back there, and I had bands on there. Which was a band called Legend, which turned into Strangeland. Those guys formed another band called Strangeland, which is still out there today. I believe the only one in the band on Strangeland is Daryl White. I was hiring bands. We were throwing parties and stuff and having a good time. And I wanted to have a Halloween party because I threw big Halloween parties and I had a huge stage. I wish I had a picture to show you, but it was a giant stage with, rafters and everything. It was big. And I wanted to hire a good known, well-known band. And so I reached out to Bronson, from Bronson Guitars, and he was in a band called Metalhead. at the time, and they were playing at the Martini Ranch every Sunday, and they were real popular. And so I was like, well, how much would you charge me? And he's like, well, $2,000. And I was like, $2,000, you know, I was expecting, you know, back at that time, I was expecting to pay, like I paid Legend 700, and I thought that was kind of, you know, a little bit up there and stuff at that time. But that's what I was accustomed to doing. I was like, well, $2,000, I just go out and buy a guitar and some gear and form a band and play the show myself. Yeah. Which I did. I did do that, and of course, and that's how we formed Whiskey Dogs to do that. Me and Star talked, and I'm like, let's do it, and this was in. Let me think about this. It was in about August. It was about August, 2 months before Halloween, and we started looking for players and stuff, and Mike Manning was going to the Billet Bar as well. He was a friend of ours from the Billet Bar, and we talked to Mike, and Mike was on board, and he played guitar too. And so it was Star, Mike Manning, and myself. We got together in my bedroom at my house, and we practiced. And at that time, Star was like, well, I could play bass. And so Star was playing bass, and really nobody at that time was singing. We were trying to figure out, okay, who's going to sing? And Star says, well, I can sing, you know, and we didn't have a drummer or anything. So we were just like, okay, we're going to find a drummer. And I went to a karaoke. I was going to karaoke across the street, which was at El Dorado's. And I believe at that time it was called, it was a Blue Note. And I think it just turned into El Dorado's at that time. And I was doing karaoke, and I met this girl, and I kind of remember her name. Her name. Okay, well, the girl ended up to be Dane Zimmerman's ex-wife. So her last name is Zimmerman right now, but Brittany Zimmerman, I believe her name is, but I can't really remember it right now. Okay. But it was Dane's ex-wife. Okay, and I did not know Dane at the time, and I was telling Brittany, you know, because I was looking for a vocalist and everything, and doing these karaoke's, and she's like, well, Dane plays bass guitar and everything, and she's like, you should talk to him, you know, because Star wanted to sing, but he didn't think that he could sing and play bass at the same time. So so I reached out to Dane, and Dane knew, and we were still looking for a drummer, and we had a drummer. And we were practicing with him, but he ended up going to prison.
Oh,
yeah. So he went. Yeah. Oops. So he went to prison, and that was 10 days before our Halloween show. And at that time, we were scrambling trying to learn songs, and also at that time, it was kind of funny. Before Dane, let me back up just a little bit because this is humorous as hell. We had Star's wife, Bobby, playing bass guitar. And so Bobby was playing bass guitar, and just to get us through, you know, practicing these songs and everything while we were looking for a bass player while Star was singing, because he, like I said, he couldn't sing and play bass at the same time. Right. Okay. Yeah. So so we found Dane, and he's playing bass, and we lost our drummer to prison, and Dane's like, well, let me reach out to this guy Rick, because they were in a band together. They were in a punk rock band together, and I can't remember. I don't know. I don't believe it was the Fed Ups. I believe it was another one of his bands, and it might have been the Fed Ups, but I don't quite remember. Dane knows more about that than I do. But so he reached out to Rick, and Rick went ahead and joined us, and we practiced for 10 days, and we were able to get 10 songs together to play my Halloween party. And we also hired Dane's punk rock band to play it as well. A couple of both of Dane's bands to play it as well. And that's what we did. We threw that party, and we only knew 10 songs, but it was quite fun. We had a blast doing it. And then the next weekend, there's I don't know, it must have been about 200 or 300 people that came to that backyard party, around about estimate of about 300. And it was a big backyard. But we went to the Eldorados, and Eldorados is like, hey, we'd like to have you guys play here at Eldorados. And we were like, okay, well, we can do it, but we only know 10 songs. So we played Eldorados with our 10 songs in the afternoon time, and we packed the place. It was like standing room only. In fact, I've seen it packed since then, but it was packed like one of our best gigs can be packed. And we decided, okay, we've got something going on here. Let's continue and everything. And so that's what we did. We continued on with that. And a lot of things happened in between. And, and a lot of different members had changed. And of course, we don't have Mike Manning on guitar, and there's not 2 guitar players and stuff.
Well, so they really spawned. Obviously, it moved on and kind of spawned different bands, different musicians going in different directions. You and Star have remained close for quite some time, but then Star was kind of in and out of Whiskey Dogs for a period of time, which eventually then moved over to you in Hog Wild. Is that correct? Did it kind of move from there?
The way that happened, Hog Wild formed was Star had left the band. He actually left the band twice. He left the band once right after Bike Week, and we got another singer, Bruce, to fill in for just a little while, and then it didn't work out too well. And so the band kind of went in how do you call it? Hiatus mode.
Hiatus, yeah.
That's it. That's the word. Yeah. And so we kind of, and at that time also, Dane got throat cancer, and it wasn't able to play anymore. And he went down with the throat cancer and everything. And thank God that he beat it. So we decided to, about a year probably went by, and we decided to reform again, me and Star. And we reached out to another drummer called Sean. His name is called Sean Greco, and we got him to play on drums, and another bass player to play. I don't even remember his name at this time. He didn't last very long. But Sean Greco and Star, they didn't really get along too well. They had their issues of each other, and so Star left the band and quit again. And so we reached out to Rick Finnegan and got him to sing for us for a while, and then that didn't work out too well either because of certain things that happened there. And Star came back and back into the band after about 6 months or so, like that. But then after that, me and Rick formed Hog Wild. Rick actually came to me and approached me, and he had started forming Hog Wild and asked me if I'd like to do that project as well. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll do that. Sounds interesting. I was in Whiskey Dogs at the time, and Whiskey Dogs and Hog Wild played during the same period, which made Bike Week really interesting. Playing in 2 bands, playing Bike Week shows. And I think one Bike Week went by, and I think I played 17 shows in 10 days because both bands were playing. And wow. I played a show up north in Prescott with Hog Wild, and I was back in Scottsdale at 7 p.m. to play with Whiskey Dogs. And it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild, pretty active and everything.
Yeah. Well, with that though, so you probably are, whenever anyone talks about like playing out a lot and doing shows, you really put kind of your all into doing that. I don't think I've ever known anyone who puts so much into the playing, puts so much into the setup, and so much into, the show itself than you. There's a lot of people are just like, look, let's just get up there, let's just play. But you played in these 2 bands, playing, as you said, 17 shows. I mean, it's just a lot to do, and a lot of people really can't handle that. So now with playing all these shows, certainly the Whiskey Dogs, now they've moved on. They're doing their original music. They've had a couple different guitarists here and there, but they're doing well on their own. But that's all original music. Now, they weren't playing out very often, though. They were always playing out, maybe once a month, or maybe even if that. So now, you being with Hog Wild, and then now we'll talk about Scarlet Fever, but moving out from Hog Wild, you were playing quite a bit of shows and doing the setup. But now that you start to kind of transfer into Scarlet Fever, your shows are really extensive. There's a lot going on there. So let's talk about the transition into Scarlet Fever and how that came about and how you do your shows and set them up.
Okay. Well, the transition with Scarlet Fever was I started going out with Robin White, and she was singing in a band called Double Clutch, and they were a good band, but unfortunately they folded up, and I was thinking, well, Robin was without a band. I was thinking, well, why don't we just, and her decided, why don't we just form a band and keep it going, keep her playing, because she sings amazing. I love her voice. And and we wanted to do something a little different, I'd spend a lot of time setting up my stages and stuff. In fact, right now, to tell you the truth, it takes me 3.5 hours to set up a Scarlet Fever show. I just received yesterday, I bought cold spark machines, and they have not been out live yet because I just got them yesterday. And wow. Now these things simulate fireworks going off and everything. And I just love putting a stage show on. I love a performance. I've got 6 geyser machines and fogs, hazers, lasers, and it takes me a while to set everything up, robotic lights, and it's just the presence. I want to give everybody that comes to our show, I want to give them an experience. I want them to see and hear something special. I just don't want to be a band. And this idea came from Skarlett as well. Skarlett's idea was, getting dressed up and performing and have a presentation and put a rock show together. And and it's fun. It's exciting. It's fun. Yes, it is a lot of work. It takes me 3.5 hours to set up our show, and it takes a few hours to tear it down. But it's well worth it. And I think people coming to our shows love that. We've got over 6,000 something followers, and we're doing quite well.
Well, people know the band, people know the name, and obviously, when you have somebody up front, like Robin, you end up just really getting a lot of attention with the way she dresses, the way she sings, the way she moves. She does all that. And then you guys have that kind of, camaraderie on stage to where you're playing off of each other and doing things, which is always good because, there's a lot of bands that are really, they're kind of held behind their instruments, and even with me being sideways, you're kind of held behind your instruments. So you're stuck at that microphone. You guys can play off of each other and you guys move around and you really do put on a great show between the two of you. So certainly, kudos to that, because a lot of people wouldn't put that much into it, as you do. So we appreciate that as listeners.
Yeah. What we like to do a performance, and the key actually is getting out there when you are playing is, play to your audience, play to the people that are there. Don't play to the floor. Don't play to yourself. Play to your fans and look at them and get them engaged. Once you engage your audience, you have a good show, because they want to be a part of it too. And once they're a part of what you're doing, they can feel the same experience you're feeling. And that's what we go after.
Well, yeah, I can see this. And in the songs, though, that kind of brings me to how you guys are choosing the songs that you do. I've talked to a lot of musicians, and sometimes, the musicians will say, well, look, I'm on the stage playing, I'm going to choose these songs for me. But I know, like being in Sideways, being in other groups that I played in, you kind of got to pick the songs for the audience, even if you may not like the song. So like, what is the process of you guys choosing a song that's going to end up in that Scarlet Fever set list?
Well, we take we take a look at the songs, and we, for one thing, we make sure that the songs that we can perform well, of course, and fits her voice and everything, and it's the songs that get people are know, and they active and they can dance to it. And sometimes we pick some things that other bands aren't playing because you have to spend a little bit longer time getting them to where you want them to perform them. The difficulty levels on some of these songs are a little advanced, and we just enjoy that and stuff. I tell you what, I loved your song choices. You guys did. You guys picked some really good songs. Sideways. I wish you guys were still around. And we used your drummer for the first 3 to 4 years of Scarlet Fever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what's so good about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's a lot of bands out there that have a rivalry, and that's, to me, has always been crazy. I never understood how bands want to compete with each other. I mean, we're out there having fun. We're out there having a good time. You guys would even show up to the Sideways shows, and you know what? We'd even end up playing some of the same songs, and then, hey, go ahead. You know what? Use our guitar player, use our drummer. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's all good. And it worked out really well. And it really kind of opens up, the door to a lot of musical, things that could happen. And I always thought that was great.
Yeah. Good times too. And, it's a lot more enjoyable when you are friends with everyone and other bands, and we just get along, and we share everything that we have with each other and stuff, and like our fellow musicians and everything, to make it work. So everyone is entertained, and that's the thing, is we're entertainers, and the key is to entertain.
Right. Well, and that is one of the. I know that one of my, I would say, my musical regrets, I've gone on to do original stuff, but I have not been able to really get out there and play very much, just for various health things. But I know I appreciate, back when you guys had asked me to join as bass in Scarlet Fever, I was like, wow, that's awesome, man. Can you imagine, being up on there and just jamming the bass and doing stuff? And, just because my issues, with my back and stuff, it was just very difficult, and I couldn't do it. And boy, but I tell you what, I would have loved to do something like that just because of the energy.
Yeah, you just would have brought a lot too, because I love your voice. You have a very unique voice, and you play bass extremely well, and a combination of the two could have brought us to a whole nother level that people would have just I'm sure would have just enjoyed and everything. But it's unfortunate, your health issues, and we understand that. And then of course we got Robert right after that and everything, and he's no longer with the band now, but it would have been something if you would have been in there.
Certainly would have been fun. So I was going to ask you about what is your song, like, what is your I'm going to play this for me song that I'm going to be kind of self-indulgent, but hey, I'm playing all these songs for you guys. I know I had quite a few of mine that I would play on stage, but like for me, I know that's a song like The Real Me by The Who, where I could kind of, focus my bass and play my bass. I know a lot of people, they didn't really know the song or didn't really appreciate it because it wasn't really something you can dance to. Just a lot of flying bass and a lot of crazy vocals. And a lot of fast guitar kind of stuff. Was just a lot of fun to play. So what is your song of everything where you say, this is for me, I'm going to have fun?
Well, we're not playing it right now. The song that I enjoy playing the most, and that's Train Kept a Rolling. Aerosmith did a good version of it and everything like that. Sure. I just kind of love that song. I love the stops in it. I love the guitar work in it. I just really like the rhythm of the song and everything like that. But we don't play that right now. Maybe in the future we might. That's one of my favorites. Right now, what we're doing, that's one of my favorite things to do, is we take a whole lot of love into Led Zeppelin, and we blend it with Stairway to Heaven, which is the fast part of the stairway where I go into the solo part of it, and I really enjoy that part of the show.
Yeah, yeah. And now what about Skarlett's vocals? Obviously, all the different things between you guys that you do with the vocals. What is her song that she just really gets into and really loves to sing over and over again?
She likes a Fleetwood Mac, Rihanna.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All
right, I can see that. Yeah,
yeah. She really enjoys that one. She does the long version of it, and she really gets her vocals dynamic into it to different levels of.
Right. Now, I know, like when I was in Sideways, some of the things that we did were just silly and goofy. But like one of the songs that we did that was kind of like a joke almost, because it was one of the things to where our guitar player was like, well, we got to learn some new songs, but then there wasn't a whole lot of time. And, our guitar player loved to go up on stage and have a good time, so people would start feeding them drinks and doing stuff. And I'm thinking,
playing up on the bar.
Yeah. Jumping on the bar. Right. So my thoughts were like, well, I need to pick like a 3-chord song that goes over and over and over again. And as a joke, I brought in What's Up by Four Non Blondes.
Oh yeah.
And we played that just as like that way, Jeff could just kind of chill, have a drink and do whatever. And it didn't matter because you're playing 4 chords, 3 chords over and over and over again. And it's funny because that turned out to be like the staple song. It turned out to be the one that everybody jumped into, that's how a song like Walking on Sunshine came about, play these songs that are over and over again. Was there any songs that you guys had come up with that surprisingly became the song for Scarlet Fever? Were there any things like that stuck out?
Well, we did an update version of Boots, and that's a good one. People love that one, and they all dance to it. And we don't play it anything like the original. We kind of stack it up and put a harder groove into it and everything, and we really like it.
Yeah. Well, and dancing is really what gets a lot of the people to continue to come to the bars. Playing covers is really the only thing that a lot of people want to hear. I know I can understand throwing in a couple originals, and when I see a lot of bands, they're like, "Well, I'm not gonna play any covers. I know how to write originals, and I'm gonna put my originals to use." And I'm thinking like, you gotta learn the covers. You're not gonna do, first of all, a 4-hour show at a bar for the entire night and play all your originals. People just aren't going to dance. People aren't going to do anything for you. You've got to do what people want to hear, and I think that that's important. I think that people have to realize that you really got to play for the audience and for the bar. So with that, I wanted to ask you this is a tough question because it causes a lot of controversy between bands and bar owners. Okay, so you being in a band, what is your responsibility when it comes to filling that bar, if any?
Yeah, well, our responsibility is basically promoting our shows to get the word out that we're going to be at that venue, so people will go to it, and we do a lot of different things to promote our shows and make it more interesting. Like we have a fan appreciation coming up, I believe in a month or two, where we actually have a raffle, and we raffle things off. We give the raffle tickets away to people when they come in the door, and we actually raffle off really good prizes like big bottles of vodka and alcohol, and we have our Scarlet Fever things, hats and shirts, and wow. just a lot of things. We pretty much give everybody something at that show, which brings people in, and we do birthdays. That's one of our things we're really famous for is our birthday parties, because that will bring people together and bring people to the venue.
Right. Well, I think that bands need to take notice of that. I really do think that other bands need to listen to what Scarlet Fever does, especially for the bars and especially for the fans, because that's important. I've seen too many bands that are just like, hey, you're paying me to play here. I want to make, this much money. And, but it's not my responsibility to bring people in. If your bar doesn't have people, then that's a bar problem. And I don't find that to be true. I mean, obviously the bar is hiring bands to bring people in, and and that's why you're getting paid.
Yeah. And that's why we do put a show on, because we want to make it very interesting. We want to put on a light show. We want to put on a stage show, because that's something that's going to draw people to you. People just the music, you've got to focus on being good at performing your music, and your music is good, but you also have to look good while you're doing it. And you don't necessarily have to be a good looking person, but you need to actually put a good looking show on. A lot of us musicians, including myself, are ugly. but anyways, but if you can make your surroundings, if you could put on something more than just a pair of jeans and a baseball cap and a T-shirt that says your favorite band or saying on it, and put a little effort into what you're doing, and it just takes a little effort, and put it in, and let people see that, because people love if you put effort into something. If they're showing you that I have a hard time with words sometimes, but it works. If you throw effort into something, it'll get responses back. And the bar owners realize this with Scarlet Fever. They realize we put efforts into our shows, and they see me setting up the show 3 hours. Sometimes I'll go at 7 o'clock in the morning and set up a show, and then go home and sleep the rest of the day and everything. Because I can't set up the show right before the Scarlet Fever show. It's too many people coming up and bothering me, and I hook something up wrong. But But
well, good. So now, we're getting towards our time here. So I wanted to ask you, where can people find information on Scarlet Fever? Where can they find you guys at, as far as like social media or anything that you are on, so they could keep track of your shows and where you're going to be playing next? Mostly Facebook?
Well, we have Facebook page, but we have we have Instagram.
Okay.
And we have a website, and I'll flash the website up here in a second.
Scarlet Fever Band.
I'm getting it written as it speaks, as we speak.
Yeah.
But just 1 second, I'll have that information here. Okay.
But at least Facebook, we get you on Facebook, and we can get you on Instagram.
It's easy. It's scarletfeverband.com.
Scarletfeverband.com. Okay. And Skarlett, that's it was with a K though, right? SK?
Yeah, SK.
Okay.
SK.
Yeah, because a lot of people may go SC. So yeah, make sure SK.
Yeah, we spelled it like that because, of course, the other Scarlet Fever is a disease.
Yes. Exactly. And you are not.
Yeah, right. But we'll be at Arizona Bike Week this year. We're kicking it off. They hired us to be the first band on stage to kick it off on Wednesday. So we will be at Arizona Bike Week on Wednesday of April the 3rd, I believe, at 2 p.m.
Great. All right. Well, I want everybody to look out for Slammer and Scarlet Fever. They do play all over Arizona. So if you're ever out having a good time, if you want to go out and have a good time, check. They're playing out quite often. Probably what would you say you guys are doing 2 to 3 times a month or so now?
It's pretty close to 4 times a month now.
Okay.
We're pretty busy. In fact, we got 5 shows this month and next month, and we're staying pretty busy. We do not play in the summertime. We take the summer off. We play our last show the first week of June, and we don't come back until September. And that's every year we do that because it's just too hot. We put a big show on, and it takes a lot of effort to move the gear from the garage into the vans, from the vans into the venues, and it's just too hot to do it. And I'm too old now.
Understood. I completely get that. Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah. So everybody go out, get to see Scarlet Fever if you can. It's an awesome experience. Great show. They put a lot into it, and their fans really come first. So go out and see Scarlet Fever as often as you can, and look them up on Facebook. Look them up on their ScarletFeverBand.com and anywhere on social media that you can find them. Look for Scarlet Fever. Definitely check them out. Slammer, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I think we have a lot more to talk about in regards to your guitars and all the stuff that you do. So maybe we'll have to set up another show and do it another time. But until then,
have a good day. It was fun talking to you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Just while you hang on here. Let's see. All right. Thanks again. And again, tune in to Living in the Limelight. I'm your host, Anton Scholl, and we will see you again next week. Thank you. Thank you for joining our Living in the Limelight podcast with your host, Anton Scholl. Please feel free to comment, like, follow, share, and subscribe, and also add us to your playlist on your favorite streaming sites. Thanks again for joining, and we'll talk to you again next week.